Yeah. Let's see what goes down.
That's it, man. That's it. What you been up to today, Russ?
I just busted out a couple of sessions.
Nice.
For a couple of clients. Woke up, did my morning rehab. I was listening to the podcast with Andrew Huberman. That was pretty interesting.
Okay.
Have you heard of him, Andrew Huberman?
No. What's his game?
He's one of my favorite people right now. He's a neuroscientist and just so articulate and like just really makes it really easy and really succinct. Puts everything so succinctly to be able to understand what's happening in the brain in terms of all the neurochemistry, especially talking about dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, oxytocin, all those different things. So essentially, some of the stuff we talked about last time with goal setting, it also goes into presence and what else? This is good because then it just forces me to remember. So more recall I have, the more I understand it.
Sure, for sure.
So when it comes to serotonin and stuff, which is like presence, like in the moment, appreciate what you have. And then the kind of, so it's just super interesting where he's talking about it in terms of also what's going on right now with the pandemic stuff. And
that's cool, man.
It's a super interesting guy. And then, did that while busting out my rehab routine and then smashed out, went for a run as well. Whoop was like, you're 90% recovery.
I like it.
I was like, I'm going to go smash that fucking run then. And then,
Love it. That's the one, man. That's the one. Yeah. Sounds productive, bro.
Yeah. So far, so good. I feel pretty good about it. So what about you, man? How's the day worked out?
Yeah, day's been good, man. Day's been good. Woke up, I had first clients early, so 3 on the bounce. And then I had a little bit of work to do for myself, a few clients to catch up on, a few clients to chase up on. I found that in this, since this has all happened, I messaged a few of my old clients, ones that I'm not even working with like right now, maybe from London or maybe from like UP times or pre-UP times when I was still back in Leicester. Yeah. And just kind of saying, like, what are you doing right now? How's things going? And I've had a really good reception from that, and people just saying, look, I feel like I know what I'm doing, but I would like some advice on this, that, and the other. And before you know it, we're working together again. And it's cool, man. It's cool because it just gives you'll know what I'm talking about here, where it gives you a chance to touch base with people that you used to work with in a specific way. And back then, you didn't know, like same as now. Like, well, I don't know what I don't know. You know what I mean? But now I can see what I didn't know then, and what I kind of how I used to work with those people, and they're in some ways still following that stuff religiously, and you feel really kind of grateful that people think that highly of you to follow that stuff and to keep going with it. And like some of these people, it's been like 3-4 years where they've been doing similar workouts, similar stuff, happy with it, moving forward with it, getting stronger with it. So in no way in a bad place. But now you just think, okay, cool. Like I feel like I've expanded my toolbox a little bit. Had the chance to work with cool people in that meantime. So let's expand this a little bit. Let's think about this and stuff. And before they know it, they're like, oh wow, this is totally new stuff. It still applies to deadlifts and lunges and squats and all that kind of stuff. And before, but it's fun. It's different. It's now we learn to use our body in different ways.
Yeah, cool, man. It's fun. That's like they're your checkpoint as well in a way. It's like you've gone back, taken stock by looking at what they're doing. You're like, oh shit, man, I've come a long way since then. We got some new stuff.
That's it, man. That's it. Yeah. It's fun to. I've got this one girl, Ash, who actually I said this podcast to the first time. I think I told you that she really enjoyed it, and we've started working together recently again, and we've been intermittently talking, like when I went away to UP and when I came back and stuff. And she smashed it, man. She's like, I'm gonna get this wrong now, but she's like 50 something kilos, and she deadlifts over 100 kilos for reps. Right? For reps, right? I'm just like, were you always this strong? Like, do you know what? I've got to shout her out, right? That's the first shout out for this podcast, Ash, the legend, right? She knows who she is. Just training consistency, not letting shit get in the way, showing up when rain or shine or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's yes. Dench is the word. Yeah,
Right,
she's just she's done really, really well. So yeah, like you said, it kind of gives us a chance to go back and say, okay, right, this is our point of reference, and say, okay, I was here, but now let's incorporate this, that, and the other. And she's obviously having to transition from working with barbells and machines in the gym to working at home, where she's got a foam roller. She went out to Aldi and snagged a kettlebell. So
nice.
she's expanding the horizons at home, man. So I think she's moving forward, as are a lot of other people. So yeah, man. And you got varying degrees, where I've got like a guy who's, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna order a trap bar, I'm gonna order a squat rack, I'm gonna order all these things for home. And you think, okay, cool. Like, and he's considering like not going back to the gym any after this. He's like, I want to train at home from now on, and I'm happy doing it. Whereas you've got Ash, who I know as soon as the gym opens, she'll be the first one there. So yeah, man, it's a cool time. It's an interesting time to upskill and touch base with people that you used to work with before. How are you finding this? Like, what was the guy's name? Andrew Huberman.
Huberman, yeah.
Huberman, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna check him out. Yeah.
I'll send you his Insta profile afterwards, because he does. He's been really great on Insta. He's like really generous with his like information and time. So he creates a lot of IGTV videos around certain circuitry, like neural circuitry, and how it affects our decision making, how it affects our stress levels. What else? The goal setting, like how the neurocircuitry of like gratitude and stuff. Some of the stuff we talked about last time. And so he's a super interesting guy. So it's really helpful as well, because especially if it, like for someone like me, where you might hear people talking about, for the longest time as well, especially with what we do, we help people set goals and achieve them, right? And then but there was also a part of me of like, what about just doing stuff? It's like, you just got to do things because you enjoy it, kind of thing, instead of having a goal around everything. But I mean, yeah, I guess there's one side of things where you just do it because for the sake of doing something, but then when it comes to actually excelling at something, it was just never like, everybody always talked about setting a goal and do this and do that, but it was never like too clear to me why it was so important. So the stuff that he talks about just makes it so clear. It's like, this is exactly why we do it, and this is why we're wired that way to do that. And so that's something that helps me a lot in terms of understanding why it's important to have a goal around something, for example, so that you can, because the way that it's the neurocircuitry involved and how that influences what we do as human beings. So that is that's kind of like, it's really helpful for me to understand like where he's coming out from. So I guess what I'm saying is some people would just be like, I know, like, set a goal and make it happen kind of thing. For me, it was really important to understand what's going on behind the goal setting, and therefore it's made me a lot more likely to follow through with setting a goal and doing it. And then also understanding why, if I'm not achieving a goal or if I'm not enjoying the process, that is also helping me understand that as well. So instead of like just quitting because it's like, this is too hard, there's a reason why that happens. So one of the things he talked about was if you're because it's neurocircuitry in the sense that it's not just one thing that's going on, it's a cascade of things. So when you're focused on pursuing a goal, there's one of the neurotransmitters, the epinephrine, gets released, and that helps you to make the action, to do the action and do the thing that you need to do. But if it's just epinephrine going on, then you get to a point where you just kind of hit a wall where you're like, you're not thinking about the reward you're getting out of the process, and the goal seems like it's so far away. So you don't, so then you just give up. So if you don't have enough dopamine that kicks in with the epinephrine, then all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure in a way. You're not going to achieve, because you're not thinking about how the little, like the celebrations and stuff. Again, stuff we talked about last time, where you just got to celebrate on your way to the goal.
Got you.
So he was like, so because it's clear where it's like you need that epinephrine release to help you focus on what you need to achieve. But if you don't get the dopamine release, then just doing that makes you feel burnt out, and you just makes you feel like you're not getting anywhere. So then for me, it was just like, oh yeah, I've known when I'm going for something, and you just kind of, there's like maybe a haze around it as well, because the focus isn't quite clear as well. And then pulling myself, and then it was also like, okay, that makes sense as to why I might have given up on things in the past, because I wasn't doing the bit which required the dopamine along the way, and which was seeing the bigger picture, not just like not treating the process as an arduous thing, like appreciating the process. And so that's where he talks about like David Goggins, for example, is somebody who's just made the process the thing that is the thing, you know. So it's like you just do the hard thing, and then the outcome happens anyway. So he's like, he's one end, the other end of the extreme. So yeah, the way he breaks all that stuff down is really super helpful for me.
That's really interesting, man.
Because then it makes me think about, then it makes me realize that, okay, no, if something gets hard, start to appreciate the process even more, and then that keeps me on track. And that's useful for me to know. And then it's useful for me to know for clients as well, because then it's like, everybody hits a roadblock, and it's just then you just got to see the bigger picture again, which is why you're doing it. Celebrate the little wins, because you probably forgot to celebrate the little wins along the way, and then kick on again.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. That's so big. I mean, I can liken it straight away to. So I told you I started this Prescript level 1 course with Jordan Shallow. And one thing that I wasn't expecting him to touch on, like you hear the guy talking, and similarly to what you described with this guy, is that he's super articulate. You ask him to break down the anatomy of head to toe. I think the guy could just reel it off, Atlas of Anatomy. He could just off the dome. You know what I mean? He's super clever. And but one of the things he touched on was how if you're using specific language with clients, it's either gonna be received in a good way, be received in a bad way, or in an indifferent way. And it's as much about being a people person as it is about being a great trainer. And I didn't expect him to come out with those kind of you don't really think that I'm going to go to Jordan Shallow, like powerlifter, muscle doc guy, to get how to converse with people. You know what I mean? But then that was like a little plus point from the first lecture anyway. And I can tell that's going to be a big part of this, because the way he put it really well. He said that no one cares what you know until they know that you care. That was a great phrase. And I've not heard that before. And I just kind of, it definitely made me think about the PTs that I've worked with in the past, where they've got a bank of knowledge which is just deep, super deep, right? But they might not have that people side of their game in check. And it's definitely evident. You know what I mean? It's definitely evident. I think what you're doing there is you're uncovering the people side of things right down to the root, right down to the core. You know what I mean? And I think once you can really do that, and like you said, set up the process in a way where, okay, I'm going to get you excited about the process. I'm going to talk to you about all the little elements. But then at week 2, we're going to have a check-in, and we're going to discuss how you're feeling right now. And I'm going to make you aware of everything that you've subconsciously achieved. I think just by doing that, it's like reframing the whole process. And again, I've got to liken this back to another one of my clients, Johnny. And Johnny met me in a really weird way, but we've started working together now. We were supposed to go work together at UP, but didn't work out. Anyway, he works as a speech therapist, and he's got a place called the Speakers Gym in London. And one thing that he kind of, whenever we have a session, he always ends up imparting knowledge toward me, and likewise back to him in terms of his training. And he came up with this graph, and he said like the y-axis and the x-axis, and he just drew a straight linear line going up. And he said that once you've started something, your perception of where the end goal is always the thing that you're keeping in your mind, right? So you're always wanting to get there. You're always wanting to compete at the Olympics, or you're wanting to get that UFC title. You know what I mean? That's the end goal. That's always in your mind. But you kind of lose sight of where you're actually at right now. And then as you're on that journey, you can have a slight setback, or you can have a day where, like you're talking about, these transmitters, they're not quite firing, you didn't quite sleep too well, maybe you had a knockback in training, or you had an argument with a loved one or something. And all of a sudden what happens is, even though you're on that trajectory, you're kind of midway, or even you're a third of the way through, you start associating with yourself back from day one. And you start, because the neural circuitry has been in place for however many years, you're not in any way this guy yet, but you're looking at this guy, and all you're seeing is how far you have yet to go. But the actual the hardware inside the software inside your brain is so much more associated with being the guy you were at the very start, or the girl you were at the very start. So you start associating with that, and before you know it, you're not ever, like you're talking about, thinking about the small wins. You're all of a sudden, oh, it's the failure, oh, I fucked up, like this is what I always do, and then you're just back to square one again, really, because it's been 3 weeks and you've not seen the inside of a gym, you've not seen any kind of routine, and you just fallen off the wagon, you know what I mean? But I think it's super important, like putting all those things together in terms of what you're talking about with your guy, and actually knowing and valuing that enough to apply it to the client, and then see that, okay, right, let's frame this really, really well for you. And even for ourselves, we don't, like with training, if we don't go first, we're in no position to help anybody else. So I think what you're doing is proper valuable, man. Proper valuable, yeah.
Like you said a bunch of stuff which is super on point, super important. It's stuff I've been thinking about quite a bit recently as well, because that's a good simplified way of putting it as well. X-axis, Y-axis, here's the thing, here's the place you're trying to get to. Being aware of where you are, but then also it's kind of being aware of the triggers that take you back to where you don't want to be. And it's for me, it's the idea that your identity is always shifting. So that's the kind of thing I've been thinking about. So everybody talks about, you are who you are, like, and that's it. That can't be changed. And yeah, so I've just been thinking about, like, okay, well, with the fact that, so again, Huberman's been great at exposing me to the idea of neuroplasticity, or actually building on it. So it's like something I'd heard of, and then he just really built on it. And so with neuroplasticity, is just basically our brain's ability to change over time, to physically change as well, based on the experiences that we have. So the idea that, the older you get, you can't change anything about you. It's a lie. Basically, you can continuously change whatever you want about yourself. So, but it just takes a hell of a lot more effort. So when you're a kid, it's just like you're soaking up the world. You can passively just take in information, and it's like how kids start to, like, maybe the parents are super careful about what they say around the kids, and then one time they said shit. And then 2 days, 3 days later, the kids start throwing shit everywhere. Like, hey, where did you get that from? It's like they're not even paying attention, but they're picking up. It's just like they start saying it. But for adults, it has to happen in a certain way where it's like you have to pay a lot of attention, a lot of focus, and then you can rewire your brain. And so because of these techniques, in terms of again, this neurocircuitry, you can change what you identify with. You can change who you think you are, I guess. So you're, say, like, right now, I am this person in this moment, but I want to say maybe I'm working on being more conscientious. So maybe I want to develop the skill to me, it seems like a skill, the ability to work hard. So because there's no doubt about it, the harder you work, or if you work hard at something, then you're a hell of a lot more likely to achieve it than if you don't work, right? So to be at the place that you want to be. So for me, like, working hard is a skill that you can develop as well. So it's like I may be somebody who doesn't work as hard as I could do right now, but I can develop into being somebody who does work hard. So then one of my traits can be, I'm a hard worker, even if it isn't right now. You know what I mean? So it's like apply that to, you can be to anything. So if you're somebody who's naturally pessimistic, but it's getting you nowhere in life, and you want to be more optimistic because you want to see the opportunities in life, then you can start to say to yourself, I'm going to be more optimistic. And how do you do that? And like that movie Yes Man, for example, is a really good example of extreme example of that. Like Jim Carrey just says yes to everything, and then look at look at the outcomes of that kind of thing. So you can just change who you are based on based on where you want to get to, just identifying with the things that turn you into that person. And but yeah, like you said, you have those setbacks, you have those knockbacks, or 3 weeks and you're just falling off the wagon because you start to identify with where you come from, because that's who you've been for so long. And it's easy because it's like it's habit to be that person. So you have to be quite conscious of it until you create a new baseline, like we talked about last time. New baseline, then that's what you fall back on. Then you practice some more, you create another baseline, that's what you fall back on. So I feel like identity is something like that as well, which is continuously shifting. It doesn't have to be the same thing. You don't have to be that same person all the time. You can transform yourself into whoever the fuck you want to be, basically, or whatever you want to be. So that's like stuff that you mentioned there. I feel, just made me think about that, because it's interesting. It's like something I've been thinking about a bit recently. It's like, musing about it, whether it's true or not, but it's like, it feels like it's true because based on things things I'm hearing now as well, in terms, especially with like the neuroscience coming out around it, and then just based on experiences.
Too right, man. Too right. And I think we can say this about ourselves, that when we've got somebody in a qualified position who's done the research, who's got the reps in their chosen field, we're very inclined to listen. And luckily enough, we've had that through our lives. Like whether it be like, well, we mentioned our parents last time, they've got the reps in being just hardy and getting shit done. And then we've run into Sylvia, we've run into this guy you're on about on your Instagram. There's all these people that have qualified in specific ways. And then I think it's a trait that you need, but it's also something that I feel you get from people around you. Like, I think we need people around us to tell us what time it is sometimes. And when we're not as aware as we should be, but for whatever reason, I think it's invaluable for people around you just to get a hold of you and just shake you or smack you in the face and be like, listen, you're not really doing what you could fully be doing with your life. And I think that kind of goes back to why we're like, what do I call it? Like, community driven, not community driven. The word I'm looking for is like not pack animals, but what are we? We're very, very,
tribe.
Yeah, that's the one. Tribal. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why we are the way we are, because we need people around us, and all the concepts you're mentioning right now are just coming from obviously other people doing their research, and us being aware enough to listen and to be like, recognize the fact, oh shit, I do that sometimes. Like, that's a part of me. Like, maybe sometimes I'm a bit mopey when I shouldn't be mopey, or maybe I'm a bit like, I'm just not as present as I should be, or you know what I mean? Like, when somebody frames it in a specific way, and then if you're really honest with yourself, you can kind of see yourself in that same light and think, I don't want to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, that this is back to your like mortality in a way. Like, I don't want to, if today's my last day, I don't want to die being like a loser. You know what I mean? Like, and what do I define that as? And if I have the opportunity in front of me right now to change that, then I don't know, I could totally change my life. You know what I mean? I could totally change my life. And I think that belief, coupled with knowing yourself and then knowing that there is something more out there, then you're always inclined to go for more. And then I think coupling that with people around you to tell you or to show you that, you know what, there is more in whatever field there is more, whether it be you've stepped on stage as a comedian, you know what I mean? That's totally out there. But at the same time, dude, like it opens the door in so many crazy ways for everybody else to be like, what are you scared of? Go and do it. What do you think that you could possibly do one day? Go and do it. You know what I mean? Like, just to do it, to get the rep in first. And then it's like what you're talking about with us having our basis in reality in this realm. Well, now all of a sudden we've got one toe in that pond too. And we can now think about jumping in that water is the same way we're living in this one right now. We could live in that world too. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think it's all about just opening ourselves up to that that possibility at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a big point. Is you have to be open, or you have to at least open yourself up. So because it requires an element of vulnerability as well. Well, it is vulnerability, and it's like that's such a hard thing for anybody to do, where you just kind of open yourself up, because the very definition of being open is that you can let something in which isn't great for you as well, and so you don't necessarily have to. If you're doing that, because it's a new space, a new arena for you, you can obviously feel overwhelmed and too challenged by it, and then it can make you close down again. But it's like you say, having the right people around you to kind of keep pulling you through that. And that's what's important. That's what's important for our role as coaches for people. But then I always say, even coaches need coaches. It's everybody needs somebody. Everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody they can learn something from. Everybody needs somebody they can rely on for a different perspective, which you haven't considered before, because you have to be able to get outside your own space and get outside your own head. And because otherwise, it gets too insular, and you just it's difficult to make good decisions if you have people around you to help you out with that. And then ultimately, there's a bunch of shit that we don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I totally agree. And let me ask you this question, man. So hypothetically, I've got a client right now who I feel needs to show a bit more enthusiasm and show a little bit more. I don't want to use the word appreciation, because I feel that's a bit pompous on my side. But if they're going through a strong change, and you can see them from where they were to where they are now, how would you bring them from, because laying everything on the table, lost a load of weight, like talking about 15 kilos.
Wow.
Looks like a different person, performs like a different person, moves like a different person, and has had the elements kind of framed to them, maybe not as extensively as I could have had, but has awareness that, you know what, we're not at step one. You know what I mean? However, the psyche and the kind of just the mood in general is usually quite low. Is never really kind of boisterous, and kind of, maybe I'm making them be something that they're not, but you kind of, in my mind, hope that somebody would advance in that sense as well. Maybe kind of seem a bit happier about their new life, or kind of see that, you know what, goals have been achieved here, and we're moving forward, and maybe I should show a bit more enthusiasm about this. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the situation I kind of find myself in with this particular client. Right. How would you maybe deal with that? Is that something that you feel I should check and be like, oh, it's not really something that we should try and think about changing? Or do you think that that's something, you get what I mean?
Yeah. Is it hindering that person from achieving more?
I think so in the sense that if they, you know how, so if I was going to teach you an exercise, if I was going to teach you a movement, there's a certain level of internal focus you've got to keep, and with that internal focus comes a bit of like tension with the body. You're holding yourself in a specific way. You're keeping yourself taut. You're not letting yourself kind of wobble and fall all over the place, or kind of be taken by the exercise. You're more kind of standing your ground. I feel like that would be the progression. If they kind of recognize that, look, I'm here now, I need to knuckle up and get with the program. Like I've done what I've done. However, I need to kind of almost leave that to the side a little bit and get with the here and now. And I think the kind of the lack of luster is kind of keeping them where they are as opposed to where they could be. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Is it something where they've expressed an interest in going further as well? So they're not just happy with maintaining where they're at. They want to push on.
I think so, and I think given the field of work that they're in, it's quite image driven, and it's quite it is about moving forward. You know what I mean? Moving forward and kind of being a bit more striving for the next best thing, if you know what I mean. So like in that kind of space, if you're yesterday's news, then you're not really going to be relevant today. You know what I mean, as it were. But
right.
I think yeah, they have expressed that, but maybe not as much as maybe other clients. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Why would you? What would you say to that if they hadn't expressed that?
Yeah, so I think it's checking in with. So yeah, there's several things. Is one of the things is checking in with where they're at, and if there's still somewhere that they want to go further. So yeah, so let's think about. I guess one of the things could be, let's think about their goal. So it's like, if you've talked about how much they've achieved, and it sounds like, that's massive. Like it's probably quite big for that person as well. So then the next thing is do they have, is it like the 80-20 rule? They're pretty much 80% of the way there, don't really care about that last 20%, and because it's just going to take way too much effort. So it's kind of checking in with them to find out, are you happy with where you are? If not, where do you still see yourself being? And then if it feels like that lack of enthusiasm and appreciation for where they're at right now is limiting their progression further forward, and based on what they say about moving further forward, if they do want to do that, then one of the ways we can potentially get them to get that appreciation and sense of enthusiasm, like assuming that is not just their predisposition as well. So if their predisposition is to be somebody who's a bit more negative, and it's like, okay, well, it's going to be hard to get somebody to be overly enthusiastic about things, especially if it's not stopping them from achieving their goal and being where they want to be. But one thing I think that could be useful is essentially getting them to literally list out all the things that they've achieved in this journey, no matter how small. So it could even be something like as small as, I stopped eating snacks after 8 p.m. instead of eating until right before I go to bed. It could be, which in the grand scheme of things, that's massive, but in the moment it might seem like it's a really small thing, right? But if you keep doing it on a regular basis, then instead of you losing £2 a month, you're going to lose £5 a month, kind of thing. So getting them to highlight everything that they've achieved in this period. So I agree with that. Yeah, so I think that's a very useful exercise, because it brings back the mind to everything that's gone right and everything that is possible, and how and then they can, and then it's an active way of doing it. You've got to bring it to the consciousness so that they can really appreciate it. So I think that's one way of approaching it. And you could even set them a goal. It's like, I want you to list 20 things that you're grateful for, or that you've achieved over this period. And then that can help improve their appreciation. And then because they've done that can spur them on to the next thing. So it's literally, if it's quite easy for them to get to 20, then say, okay, I want you to write 50 things, like literally list it out, one line on each piece of paper. Just list out all the things that have gone really well for you. And again, very, very small to all the major stuff. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily with the work she's done with you, or she or he has done with you. It can be related to the knock on, like everything else that's gone well as well in that whole period. Because I think, because that's useful, because then that's, if there's no appreciation, there's no enthusiasm, it probably means there's no appreciation for the here and now. And then going back to stuff that Umar was saying, which is that, that serotonin boost, where you're appreciative of what you have right now. So it's not just about the goal that you're achieving, but it's also that high performers, people who are consistent high performers are the ones who have that pursuit of a goal, but at the same time are very present with where they're at as well. So they appreciate everything that they're going through. And so it sounds like she's missing that piece. That person's missing that piece. Let's try and incorporate that by getting them to sit with it and just make that list of things, and then push on from there. And What else could there be? Yeah, it'll be that line
I
of
like that. Just that point itself, taking stock and again likening it, actually going back to where you were at the very start and seeing the journey you've been on. I think that you asked a question about like, is it hindering them from where they could be going? And when I mean, you've done this as well. You've worked with many people from that start point all the way through, maybe even a couple of years worth of a journey, and you see where people can naturally go, and you've done it yourself. And again, we've referenced this at the start of the podcast, where like, oh, my knowledge was here, but now my knowledge is here, and I've had to change how I think. I've had to change how I behave through the day. I had to change my routine, and it's made me a new person. You know what I mean? And then you see somebody, and you think, okay, right, well, you're doing really, really well here. However, if this thing was to change, I feel like it's going to open up a lot more for you, and you can. It's not right to judge, but you can inherently get a vibe from someone. You think, okay, maybe some things about the way you go about your life could be easier if maybe you were to address these few things. And this is interesting because it's kind of segueing off into a chat I had with a girl I used to work with at UP, Emily Anger, and she's starting up her own coaching service, and it's very much a lifestyle coaching service where training is an element of it, and psychology is very big and very much an element of it. And I think this is where this conversation is kind of going, where I want to have that chat about someone's psychology and say, okay, look, it just seems that your demeanor itself needs addressing as opposed to your RDL. You know what I mean? Like we can look at that posture, we can look at your form and say, but it's all encompassed. You know what I mean? So it's one thing. Like how you do anything is how you'll do everything. But I don't feel like I want to overstep my remit as a PT. You know what I mean? But at the same time, the reps I've had being a PT have also been reps with a person. You know what I mean? And that way you see that if there is something about them that is holding them back, you want to tell them, but you almost want to be like, look, I don't want to break you down as a human, but it's about you. Same way that like those 15 kilos had to go, this has got to go too. Like this it's in my opinion, it might need to just be addressed. You know what I mean? And that's somewhere where I definitely want to take my service as a PT. I definitely want to be able to relay that, relay that information where I haven't gone there in the past. And I think it's only gonna come from a place of wanting to move people forward. But then I think it's a case of upskilling there. And a note I wrote to myself the other day was, who are the best people in the world? This is just a question that I wrote to myself to research at a later time. Who are the best people in the world at dealing with people? And like just having forming a base of like a rapport, and then upon that rapport building to help somebody move from point A to point B with just verbal communication. You know what I mean? And I think that's definitely something that I've got to expand into. 100%,
man. That's definitely the missing piece. For sure, in most cases, like understanding some level of behavioral psychology is massive, because it's because last time we said something about all or nothing, right? It's all or nothing rarely works because you're not changing fundamentally what your behavior, your set of behaviors that you have, because it's like you just do something. It's like going 100% all in, and then it's not changing the underlying set of behaviors that you have, which actually dictate your life, right? Because it's not a conscious effort. It's like if I just do, the only thing I do is just what you tell me to do. It's like, I don't know why I'm doing it, but my PT told me I do feel great, but they're only telling me I'm only doing it because they told me to do it, rather than if you have the wherewithal to actually
consciously do
it. To be like, okay, this is working for me. Why is it working for me? And it's because I've done this, this, and this. And as coaches, we have to make that obvious to people, to our clients, but also that individual has to take responsibility for it as well, because it's not just because you're giving them a transformation, but it's not just for now. It's supposed to be for the rest of their life, because at the end of the day, they're coming to you with a problem that you can help them solve it, and you're not trying to help them solve it for a minute. You're trying to help them solve it for the rest of their life. So there has to be an element of understanding the like basic behavioral psychology to be able to help push people forward. And yeah, there is, like, it can feel like you're overstepping your mark, but you're not really, because at the end of the day, it's part of what we do. Because if we have to be able to be that mirror, we have to be able to show people where they're at right now, but what they could also achieve. And if they're not going where they need to go, then we've got to ask the hard questions as well. So if clients aren't used to that, then it might be a bit of a weird one. But then, you frame it your own way. It's like, look, I'm looking out for the best of you, and I know that I've noticed these things. Then what can you? So let's have a conversation about that, so we can help push you forward. But it's definitely, like, that communication piece is massive. Like, I had a client where the ultimate goal is weight loss. Started off really well, but then for months it was just stagnant, and it was very difficult to approach the topic of, like, why the hell is this not going anywhere? Because you're showing up to sessions, but clearly something's not going right outside of these sessions, right? And then so at one point I realized I need to ask the question. I need to be like, okay, this is what you said. We've started off well, but then nothing good has happened after that. And it's a bit of it's just like run of the mill stuff for us right now. I'm not enjoying training you because you're not getting anywhere, and you're not going to keep coming back because you're not getting anywhere. So where the hell are we? What's the disconnect here? And then when I finally approached it from the point of view of let's show the client some compassion, and instead of being like, why the hell aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing and is working? Why aren't you doing that? And just asking the other way is, like, what's stopping you? What's hindering you? Like, where are you right now? Where do you see my role in helping you where you are right now? And then truth came out, and it was just basically, what, I'm up to here with everything in life. Like, just coming to these sessions, I can just about do that right now. So if you're asking me to make changes to my nutrition, if you're asking me to make changes to, my sleep routine or whatever it might be, I just can't handle that right now. So we need to tone it back, and I'm just happy just plodding along for now. I was like, okay, cool, that's fantastic. We've realigned and we figured out where you're at, and we can go with that. But just know that I'm going to keep asking the question when you're ready to keep pushing forward, because I'm here to make sure that you're achieving what you want to achieve. I don't want you to just give me your money and not get anywhere with it. So that's a really important thing to do, and understanding. So you have to understand where their psychology is at, because that's a big reason. It's probably the biggest reason. The longer I do this, and just the more self-aware I become as well, I find like the biggest thing that's always going to stop you from achieving what you want to achieve is just purely in between the years. It's going to be a mindset thing, as opposed to it being the journey, as opposed to it being the outcome, as opposed to it being lifting the weights and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely what's in between years, because that determines how much effort you put into something. That determines how you're going to show up on a given day. And if you're on the side of, like, if you're identifying yourself with the struggle more than you're identifying yourself with the opportunity, then you're always going to struggle, and rather than push forward because you see it as there's an opportunity. So I would 100% say is like, it can feel awkward for sure, but then when you start to learn how to frame the conversation, you'll definitely get better at it as well. It's something I'm always getting better at as well, because at the end of the day, we go into PT and we think, we're going to help people out with their bodies and stuff, but then you realize the biggest thing that you need help with is actually changing their lifestyle. And if you want to change your lifestyle, then you actually need to work on the psychological element of it as well a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's motivated me as well. So I had that chat with my mate from UP, and she told me about this book called you heard of NLP, right?
Yeah.
Right. You've got this on the back of it. So NLP for dummies. And I've been going through it, and it's do you know what? It's definitely something that I needed day one. You know what I mean? I definitely needed this day one, and even that paired with like I got this book by my bedside as well, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, wicked.
Great book, like super simple, super easy to absorb and apply straight away. And it's as much as you need like Charles Poliquin level 1. You need How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know what I mean? And that it almost like it just harkens back to that same thing of no one cares what you know until they know that you care, right? And obviously, this for any of our clients is always from a position of look, I care about you. I want you to do your best, and I want you to move forward holistically. You know what I mean? I don't want your chest to lag behind your hamstrings. So why would I want your confidence to lag behind your willingness to do anything? You know what I mean? Like this is just I want you to fully move forward. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, man. It's an interesting concept, and I think it's definitely going to be where I shape my my learning. Obviously, alongside this course that I'm doing right now, which I'm super stoked for, man. Super stoked for, because having a few chats with the guys that are on the course and getting on the forum on Facebook and just chatting about like, okay, questions from week one, dissecting a bit more of the methodology of like what is it, mobility, stability, and strength. Alongside that is definitely going to be more of this side of this kind of study for sure.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And then another thing I'll add on top of that is we have to stop caring too much how much our clients like us.
Yeah,
because that's another thing that stops us from shining that light on the problem, because it makes them feel uncomfortable, which makes us feel uncomfortable. But we do have to ask those tough things. We do have to make them feel uncomfortable to be able to break through it. And that's, again, it's tricky. It's tricky, but it's super necessary, man. It's street Jesus style, super necessary.
Yeah, buddy. So true, man. So true. Like you just as soon as you said that, make them feel uncomfortable, it goes straight back to every time you were uncomfortable. Yeah. And as a result, you just grow so much, man. You grow so much, and then it's like, okay, I'm being put in the position right now by my life, by like my higher up, to say, look, develop that skill, because you need to feel it. You're feeling uncomfortable right now. Good things that come with it, and that's the necessary kind of feeling I need to be feeling right now. Yeah, man, definitely, I like that for sure. Yeah, exactly. For sure.
And it gets to that stage as well, because obviously, so that person's moved beyond, like, I guess maybe has moved, I don't know, but like beyond that novice level, right? Because when you're a novice, you see results really quickly. It's kind of easy to just ride that curve, but then it starts to get hard when that curve starts to plateau. And so you're starting to get to that level. Now you really have to ask yourself some serious questions, which is, okay, I've done well to this point, but what do I need to do better to keep going? And that's hard, because that's going to help. That's going to make you look at all the things that you didn't really want to look at as well. You know, it was a great one back when I used to work in Virgin Active. One of my ex-colleagues, one of her clients said to her, it was great. She goes, you know, since I've been working with you over, like, I can't remember if it was like 12 months or something. It was a decent amount of time, but she said, look, I've lost 30 kilos with you, and I've stopped drinking so much, and I've stopped smoking as much as I used to. And I realized I don't like any of the people that I hang out with, and I don't like my job. Right? It's like, that's hilarious. It was like, the way she said it was hilarious. She was the kind of person who would just handle it anyway. She was like, I don't like the people I work with. I don't like the people I hang out with. What the fuck have you done to me? But she was also the kind of person who could deal with that. But now, for most people, it's like, I don't have any friends left. I don't know what the fuck to do about my job. This is super difficult. So then it's easy for you to fall back into who you were, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get to that stage, you're going to be asking some tough questions. So the person will be asking some tough questions of themselves as well. It's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to change? And that's where we actually have to be on the ball even more. And again, that's something that I'm practicing more and more and more, is with myself, and then with other people as well, with clients, is like, we can coast along, because, you know, you've got into the routine of doing sessions, but every few months is checking in, is like, what is it that you want to achieve now? What is it that you want to achieve now? Are you still happy doing what we're just doing, or do you want to take it up a notch? If you still got some if you still got 5 to 10 kilos to lose, let's say, okay, you're moving better, you're feeling better, you're doing great, you've got a lot more confidence in yourself. How much do you care about that extra weight that you said you wanted to lose, but you haven't lost yet? And yeah, so it's just like continuously checking in is like, okay, then what are you going to do to make that happen? And then staying on it. And yeah, just making sure it's like, let's not settle on the struggle. Let's look at the opportunity, because and that's another one as well. We talked about the end goal that you have, like you place it on that point on the graph, but you can also lose sight of that as well because of how difficult it can become. So you just kind of, you just can't see it. So you have to keep identifying with that goal and then just do the workout. So if I use myself as an example, you remember when we chatted about, so for me, it was like, I just want to get started with training because that's the hardest part. When I build it up into a routine, I'm going to have a much clearer idea of what I really want. I know I want to get stronger and I know I want to be fitter. I want to build off like the movement base that I have, and I want to be stronger. Like for me, strength is the thing that's going to correlate with so much in terms of health and performance. Like if you have that base level of strength, then I'm like 40 years away from being in my mid 70s. But if I set that now, I can still be moving and running around when I'm 75 instead of being the person who's like hunched over and using a cane and worried about falling down because I might break something, so it's like, so I knew I wanted to get strong. And then when I started the journey and I got into it, then I had that conversation with you where I was like, remember, like we found college athletes in the States, their levels of like poor strength, good strength, and then elite strength. And I was like, all right, well, let's set that as an aim, where I'm happy to be, good strength is great strength. It was like 2 and a bit times deadlift, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I was like looking at that, I was like, in 2 to 2.5 years or so, that's something that can be attained, but as long as I just show up and be consistent. And so I know those figures, I know what that means for me. Oh shit, I think I've lost you, bro. My man, it'll make me chat to myself for a little while. I'll see what happens if you can make it back in. Lose our big brown brother. He'll be back because he is just that guy. Oh, he's on his way. One sec.
Oh.
Yes, bro.
No idea what happened there, man. I went totally off.
Man, I was crying.
Oh,
no.
It's the recording stays, yeah? Sorry, the recording stays as normal, yeah?
Yeah, still going. Don't worry about
it. Sound. Yeah, I have no idea why. It just totally cut off.
Yeah.
Shit.
I was like, oh shit. And I was looking at the camera. If anybody's going to end up watching this, I'm myself for like a minute, it's like, no, I'll just wait to come back.
It's cool.
Yeah,
man, you were saying about college athlete stuff.
That's it, yeah, just like the strength, right? So, I've got those kind of physical numbers that I want to achieve over the next 2 and a bit years. So then, like, I'll wake up on a given day, and like basically my baseline for getting psyched for a training session is way, way higher than it used to be. So before it was because like strength has never been my forte. Basically, I'm like excellent at mobility and everything like that, and helping people move really, really well. And I can definitely get them strong as well, but actually programming for strength is not my forte. That's why I spoke to you about it. It's like, that's why I wanted your help with that. So I started to, so before it was like, I just don't really fancy this, don't really fancy doing it. But then I got it in my head that I want to be strong. And then all of a sudden it's like, I just want to fucking train. Like, I need to make that happen. Then starting to train and then starting to think about that long-term goal, it's making me get out of bed and want to train even more. But then obviously there's the days where I don't identify with it because it's a bit hazy and I'm not thinking about it. Then what I'll do is, I'll visualize those numbers, and I'll visualize what it's like in 2 years' time again, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm training. And that's a really important part of it as well, which is, remember what you came to me for. You said you wanted to be in this shape. Don't forget that. Let's keep aiming for that. So getting the clients to visualize that space again. That's actually, we didn't really say that, but that's really, really important. Like visualization, like where do you see yourself, and own it and feel it, like feel it as if it happened, because that will keep you going. So that's, again, putting the reps in for the mindset. That's putting the reps in for the outcome. And then you just got to do it. And
that's what I agree with.
Do it. So even if you don't enjoy the process, just remembering that you have that goal means you have to turn up for it.
Yeah. And that it kind of goes back to, like, the day you don't want to go to the gym is the day you should definitely go to the gym.
Exactly.
You know what I mean, that's the thing that just came to mind, where the session where you just think, I'm going to be useless today. I've had no sleep. I've had nothing. I don't want to do it. And you do it, and you're just like, oh shit, I was amazing today. You know what I mean? Like, your body just kind of clicks, everything works, and wow, how did that happen? And that's like your future self kind of like pulling you through. Be like, come on, it's okay. Just go through this shit, because you definitely need to go through that shit, man. And it's great that you touched on visualization, because like, I can speak about that myself and be like, okay, my transformation, losing like 80 odd kilos, that was always the goal. That was always like, it wasn't like the goal to lose that number, but it was always the goal to finish it looking like you've attained muscle mass. You've built a physique by going up in weight, and then like having hard training sessions to put on muscle and then stripping yourself back again and being like, okay, right, this is what's underneath. You know what I mean? Obviously, I definitely lost myself along the way. Like, that's no question about that. I 100% lost my way in terms of getting too big and getting kind of too involved in just pushing weight on the bar. And right. If I'd met someone like you along that journey and been like, okay, let's look at your mobility, like let's worry about that too. You know what I mean? Like don't worry about the extra 10 kilos on that barbell over there, because we don't need that right now. We just need to focus on this. I think that speaks back to the mindset that I was in then, was just one, like, get up, go, get up, go, get up, go, get up, go. Like, there was never a day I missed, like, for years. You know what I mean? It was always just toward the goal. And but like you said about visualization, it was always, I had clearly visualized what I wanted at the end of it, like clear as day. And that was really what I thought about. Like, all I thought about, I didn't really entertain friends, didn't really entertain kind of like going out or anything else. It wasn't my life. Like, it just wasn't. I was fine with it not being my life. Like, totally cool with it. Like going gym in the morning and seeing mates come back from their night out and be like, yeah, cool, see, I'm going gym. Like, that was life, you know what I mean? On my own, like, totally cool with it, because I had that clear as day vision. And it's really interesting that you just brought that up, because I used to outline that a lot with clients when I first started PTing, because it was really the only thing that I had was, I know I've done the reps in this realm. Like, I may have not at the time done the reps in reading about Christian Thibaudeau or this or that or whatever, you know what I mean? But I had done those reps, and I had clearly seen the value in doing those reps. So that was my ace in being like, okay, I don't know what you've done in the past, but we're going to do this. We're going to just outline this vision. And I think it's definitely something that can prove over time, and it should do that, because I think you set off with I'm going there, but you don't really know what's entailed with going there, and you end up halfway through and you think, oh well, I don't really want it anymore, which is totally fine. But as long as you then start fleshing out and you start using that experience to realize what you do want, you know what I mean? So it just shapes you and molds you further forward. Like, it's not a loss. It's like Thomas Edison, right? 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. But now you kind of failed your way forward. Yeah, man. Yeah. But yeah, visualization, I think 100% is key. And it's definitely something that I think it's got to come back to my process with clients now, in the sense that if you've never done it, how powerful a tool it can be. And I think looking at what we've taken up, well, personally, what I've taken up in the last year, being jiu-jitsu and nogi and wrestling or whatever.
Yeah.
If I come home and I practice my arm drag 10 times in my head, I feel so much more confident. Like by that 10th one, I'm like, okay, I can catch that. I can step behind. I'm just flowing in my head, and it's there. You know what I mean? And then next time you do it, it's like, oh shit, that just happened. Like it's not. I'm not thinking about it. You know what I mean? And I can definitely say that. Yeah, the ones that the techniques that I think about more are the ones that I catch. Like the ones that I don't think about is just that's a distant memory. You know what I mean? Because I just haven't in any way put myself. I don't have any basis in that reality. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key. Is like the same way we started off talking about you doing comedy and making that a part of who you are. I think the visualization is the first thing you can start doing in the sense of making that who you are. You know what I mean? You put that neural circuitry together to imagine the thought of you being slimmer, you being in shape, you being stronger, you being funnier or more confident, and then it just manifests like Kai Green, right? Thoughts become things.
Completely.
It's so true, man. So true. Yeah. That's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm gonna write that on my board. Visualization. Just spend time, just being on that shit, man.
Right. I don't want anybody. You said like you losing 80 kilos, and like there is no way you could have done that if you didn't have that visualization like you did. Like
yeah, man. Yeah.
That's epic. Is like. Because that takes so much discipline. It takes so much effort, and like the way that you did it as well over a period of years to make sure that it was a sustainable thing. That's huge. It's huge, and it's like if it's just basically that's massively inspirational for me. Is like every time I think of what you've achieved, and like I know the broad strokes of it as well. It's like you were somewhere where you didn't want to be. You visualized exactly where you wanted to be, and then the process that you undertook to get there, again, like you said, not without its pitfalls, because you kind of lost yourself in the way, but you're still so much better off than if you hadn't started that journey, right? Even if you did kind of lose yourself a little bit along the way. And that's if like what you've done, anybody can look at that and be like, holy shit, that's essentially the blueprint for achieving anything. Is recognizing where you're at, that you don't want to be there, recognizing and visualizing and living, kind of actually living it as well, where you have to live in the space that you've already achieved it, and you are where you want to be, and then just keep, like you said, pulling yourself towards it. It's like there's the push from where you don't want to be, but there's also got to be the pull, because pushing, if we talk about it in lifting terms as well, we're better at pulling than we are pushing. We're stronger at pulling. So it just put the two together, then you're in such a strong position to achieve, and that's massively inspirational. I think what you've done is
appreciate it.
Is big for people.
Yeah, man, definitely. Did you know what? It's like Sylvie rang me this week, and he video called me, and he had a mate with him. He's got a friend called Alex, and he was struggling to shift a bit of weight, and he started and Sylvia's training him, and he was just like, I want you to talk to somebody who's been there and done it. And and it's awesome. Like Sylvia ringing me for that kind of thing. I'm just like, wow, this is super cool. Like he wants my help with something, you know what I mean? Like we go to him, and we are like indebted to him for so much. And then he's flipping the script and saying, look, Umar, like you are way better than me at this, and whatever. Like I want you to talk to my friend and just tell him about your journey. And and it's amazing, because I got a chance to see somebody who was where I was, and like you said, like it's infinitely better where I am now. Like I can't even begin to describe the differences in terms of everything, right? It's all completely different, and now in a position to actually help somebody else come through that journey. You know what I mean? Like come full circle and chat to him, not as a client, but just as a person on this side of the line, and being like, dude, you don't want this. Like, I know where you are. I've been there, and that food defo tasty. But you know what's more tasty? Like striations are more tasty. You know what I mean? Yeah, like just having that, but also having the confidence to know that you can do this shit and just keep going, and I'm just building that human to say that, look, I tried something and I did something. That's and then being like you said, that's the blueprint. Like, whether it be, I want to throw this jab and I hope it lands. Oh, I've got to throw it first, right? I've got to throw the jab first. I can't just keep it here and be like, no, I've got to throw that shit. You know what I mean? I've got to just put it out there in the universe, and then whatever I get back, it's going to give me a point of reference to move and throw it, or to step back and throw it and time it. Definitely, you know what I mean? That's the win, and it kind of goes back to our third podcast where I'm like, I don't want to hand my work in to a teacher. I didn't want to hand my work in, and it's like, no, you got to hand that work in, because that's life telling you, look, this is really good, but this needs work. But this is, again, I like how you did this here, but maybe we can work on that there. And yeah, man, it just helps you get where you ultimately always want to go, which is just a better life. You know, no one wants to have a shit life. Like, that's not a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because it can literally be wherever you want it to be, in the sense that you don't have to try and aim for the 1%. You know, you don't have to try and be fucking Cristiano Ronaldo in the sporting field. You don't have to try and be Tony Robbins in the coaching field. You don't have to try and be like you name it. You don't have to be those people. But as long as you're just content, or rather aiming for the place of contentment, right? You're not where you want to be right now. So just create that framework. Is like, what is it? What does that look like? What does that look like to you?
Yeah.
And that's an eye-opening thing as well, because you just realize, okay, there might be even relationships that I don't want anything to do with. and that's tricky, because it's people, right? You don't want to let people down, or you don't want to disown people, or you don't want to upset anyone. But there can be something as simple as that. It's like, so it's like, going through that process of, where am I right now? 2 to 3 years time, where would I rather be? Because again, it's got to be 2 to 3 years, I guess. It's like, whatever time frame you set yourself, because it's not going to be immediate. It's just got to be a certain period of time. And actually, with that, you said, like, infinitely different. Like, what's if there is one thing, or maybe a handful of things that you would say you're so grateful for being the way they are now, because of the transformation you've gone through, what would you say that one thing is, or those several things are?
I'm aware of my life now. I wasn't aware of the actions that I was doing before, because I was so one-dimensional that I only had one thing that would make me happy. So if that one thing didn't get fulfilled well that day, then everyone would have a consequence. Everyone would kind of like, would feel the wrath of, oh, I'm pissed off today, so just get out of my way. You know what I mean? That would be me. Or my ears would be shut to any kind of advice or help or criticism or anything, because all I was really about was that one thing, and the only person who could appease that was me. And I was not looking. Sorry.
What was that one thing?
And that one thing was just training. Was training to be stronger, to be bigger, to be more able in the gym. And that was that one thing. You know what I mean? To be at some points it was heavier on the scale. To be, okay, I'm putting mass on, I'm putting size on. I was just completely lost in it. And you know what? As I've shed that kind of skin, that old self, I've become more and more aware that everything is just. Everything about life, I feel like, has just become more apparent to me, whether it be my relationships with people, whether it be my ability to maintain eye contact with somebody and actually speak openly and not have my attention diverted and have one eye on the clock because it's getting late, I need to go to bed because I've got to train tomorrow. Like that still is a thing. But you know what? It's put into frame everything else. That's with that awareness, I'll say that same thing, like having awareness of the rest of life. It's just put into frame the importance of having balance in other elements of your life, and like you can you can have like one egg and one basket, or you could have different eggs in different baskets in different ratios. And what it really requires of you is just to take stock of where you are right now, and ultimately really understand where you want to be and what the consequences of actually being there are. And I think what I needed more than anything back then, obviously myself to be more aware, but somebody to kind of sit me down who wasn't family, who wasn't anybody that I knew, but just was a random person to just talk and almost like ask clearly, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Do you understand the consequences of going there? And almost like somebody who's like me for this guy that Sylvia rang me about, and say, okay, I've been there. This is what it's like. And just to frame it in a way that would make me think. And I think that's kind of what I need to do for this client that I mentioned earlier, is almost frame where they are now, frame where they could potentially be, and then be like, okay, is this really what you want? You know what I mean? Is this something that you want to work toward? And it could be that I don't change my course, but however, I just have a bit more awareness about this one thing, and that one thing can manifest in so many different ways that just makes you more whole as a person along the way. Whereas chasing one thing, ultimately, again, like I said, your happiness and your contentment in the day and your sense of achievement is only ever derived from that one thing. Whereas if you have these multiple aspects of your life where, I had a great chat with Grinda today, that's now giving me a boost in one way, you know what I mean? It's giving me a confidence that I can speak well, and I can articulate myself, and I can listen well, and I can sit in one space and not have to fidget, and you know what I mean? Like there's little things about it that I can actually draw from. Whereas before I was so like monomaniacal in just one thing, and I wasn't aware of anything else. So me not having that one thing meant that I had no basis in any other reality. So I couldn't be effective for anybody in any other way. I couldn't be affected by anybody in any other way. And receiving and giving, whether it be in a conversation, whether it be in a sense of love, whether it be a sense of affection, wasn't there. You know what I mean? I really got to the game late as a human being, I think, because of this pursuit. I'm still 100% grateful, because it's made me who I am today. And I think it's given me a very unique perspective on what it's like to just go ultra deep in one realm, but then you see that, you know what, you lose yourself, wood for the trees, but you are kind of where you wanted to be. But now looking back, it's like, okay, this is what I didn't have. You know what I mean? In answer to your question, it's definitely just the awareness of the rest of life, for sure.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's cool, man. Cool journey. Yeah. It's interesting listening to like my family talk about myself back then, because this is going to sound about bonkers, but I don't remember a lot of it. I don't remember how I was. There's big chunks of our lives, and this is not just due to the training and due to how I was. It was because of like family shit was going on at that time, and it was just a weird time in our all us four: my mum, my dad, my sister, and myself. And it was definitely, all of us were kind of in this haze where we didn't really know what would happen in the next couple of years. So we all went our separate ways, and I went straight to the gym, and that was my like escape from what was potentially like happening at home. So yeah, man, and you just lose yourself in what you feel is comfortable, but then you again, like I said, you attach all of your happiness and attach all of your sense of self-worth to this one thing. But then after it, if potentially like it goes like the next chapter in why I started changing initially was me and my dad were in a car crash, so I couldn't actually train anymore. So I was at home like laid up and not able to go to the gym because I was physically just so beat up. It was a horrible crash. It was a really bad car accident. Like both of us luckily are absolutely fine now, but at the time it was really bad. And it was almost like, okay, now what? Like now you had this like life and that's gone. What do you do? Like you got to figure it out. And that was the first time I started watching Kelly Starrett videos, and I started mobilizing myself. You know what I mean? And then that led to this. You know what I mean? So that's like, yeah, man. I feel like it was almost like a life's way of being like, okay, you're an unstoppable force in one direction. You're just plowing forward. Well, I'm going to give you an immovable object, and you're going to stop, and you're going to like literally just stay. And now you're going to figure it out anew. I mean, you can keep going down this path, but it's not really meant for you. Like you can have what what experience you've gained from it so far, that's going to be it for now. Maybe you revisit it in a different way, but let's channel this now in a different way. That's kind of the way I look back at my life and think, okay, thank you very much, because you gave me a good depth of insight, but you didn't let me go too far with it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like you can have what you think you want, or you can have what's good for you.
Big time, man. Big time.
That's big. It's
like you don't get to pick the lessons that you have in life, right? Like you can have. You just don't get to pick. Like one day you can just be like, okay, now I've got to learn this lesson. Oh shit, okay, life's changed and I've got to adapt. Like right now, like the situation we're all in,
exactly.
right? And it's training. All of it's training, man.
Yeah. Cool. When did your crash happen?
Ooh, I want to say, what day were we? 2020, 2012, 2011, I think. So I was like 19, no, about 20, 21 years old, I think. Yeah, and then like that happened, and then my dad moved out to Kenya, and I went with him, and then I came back, and then when I came back, it was like, okay, start chipping away. I got my first PT job when I was still really heavy. Like I wasn't like. That's the thing, is I have a big frame, so I can carry a lot of weight, and I can kind of hide it. Whereas like anybody else who's 22 stone, you stand out like a sore thumb. Whereas I can kind of carry it off and just be like, okay, I'm heavy, but I'm not like, I didn't feel it anyway. I never ever knew how big I really was. Like I wish I could I say this all the time, I wish I could just bring my former self into the room and be like, that's me. Like that was me. You know what I mean? Like I just bring you in like a show thing. And be, okay, you can go in now. You can leave now. Like just as a party piece. Or like even like a cardboard cutout. I wish I could just have it. Because I remember getting into cars with my mates when I was younger, and like this is at college time when everyone like just like some kids had cars or whatever, and learn how to drive. And getting into a car and just not ever fitting and being like, why? Well, you guys get in. Like, how come I don't get in? Because you're quite literally twice my body weight. That's why you don't fit in the car. Like I'm 12 stone, you're 24 stone, and you're just climbing every week, right? You're just a lot bigger than all the rest of us. But interesting times, man. Interesting times.
Yeah. And then, so when was it like? When was the decision to be like, I'm done with being this heavy. I need to. That was it. I think there was a few things along the way, and then that car crash happened, and it was just like, okay, I can't train that anymore. I've got to train at home. And I remember just kind of like, I was quite sedentary back then, but the gym was always about a 4-hour pursuit, because I'd walk there, I'd train for 2 hours, and I'd walk back, and then whatever it would be, it would take up a good amount of my day, right? And that having that time really started itching on me, and I was like, okay, what can I do? So I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm watching all the stuff I normally would have watched, like running common videos and this, that, and the other, and whatever. And all of a sudden you come across things that interest you. So like anatomy always interested me, like looking at strength training anatomy. I've got a book up there by Frederic Devalier. Like this is a guy that Poliquin recommended like back in the day. And I bought that book, and the illustrations in the book were always like Greek kind of illustration, so it looked really kind of stoic, and like you know the physique I'm talking about, right? Like really well developed physique. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, cool. Like I don't know any of this. I don't know obviously I know bicep and pec, chest, and all this kind of stuff. I don't know the detail. So I'm looking up anatomy, and I literally come across a Kelly Starrett video, and he's talking about internal rotation. And his method was always like smash this and smash that and smash this. So I'm okay, cool. I can smash things. Like let's go. Like I had a barbell set at home, like a really small barbell set with I'd say about 80 kilos worth of weight. I started using that to like put in here and try and like mobilize and internal and external rotation. I'm doing this stuff. And I'm like, oh shit, this stuff really works. So I'm like, while I'm laid up, let me just go through my body and watch a video and then go and do it. Watch a video and go and do it. And I realized how immobile I actually was. And yeah, man, that's how it kind of started. Went from there into incorporating a lot more of that into my training, and then going back to trying to train the way I trained before. And my body just didn't respond. I think that the trauma of the actual crash was a lot more severe than I ever realized. And it was like, okay, I need to slow down, and then kind of running back to it, and then being like, no, you gotta still slow down, and then being like, I've only got one speed, you know what I mean? I only want to just go hard.
and then realizing, okay, right, like go slow, figure it out, and now I value the all the stuff that you're talking about in terms of chipping it away at it day by day, and not kind of smashing yourself. And I was talking to TJ yesterday. It was funny. Our conversation went everywhere with yesterday, the chat we had. But one of the things we touched on was like, back in the day, if it wasn't a 10-kilo plate, it wasn't going on the bar because it was too small. Like, I'm not putting a 5 on, I'm not putting a 2.5 on. Well, 1.25, just get that shit out of here. I don't need that. Like, I need to put on big weights. And I mean, big weights is where it's at. And that was me. That was me to a T. Like, if it wasn't jumping up by 10 or 20 kilos at a time, there's no point. Yeah. But then life just kind of went, no. Let's stop. Like, figure this shit out and learn this stuff. And yeah, it's good, man. It's good. I'm super thankful for it.
Yeah, amazing. Right?
Too right, man. Too right. Definitely. It's everything. And then because that gives you the mindset to understand the nuance of technique. Whereas before, I was just throwing weights around. Because I was mass, I could move mass. You know what I mean? I could just move weight. And but now it's like, okay, you've got to be like deft in your touch, and you've got to be understanding of distance, and you've got to be all these other things. And I think it's good that I have more of a respect for this stuff now, and technique is even more like, what's the word, appreciated, because I've had time in my life where I've not appreciated it, and I know the effects of that. So yeah, man, it's cool. Very thankful. Second chance round.
That's amazing. That's a good story. That's a big story. It's like kind of having that thing that struck you to change.
It's cool, man. It's cool. So, definitely.
Man, what was I going to say to that? Because that last bit you said was that you have that one set and go hard, but then it produces that deft touch because you hit that immovable object, which told you need to go in a different direction. I'm the exact other way around. This is why I love knowing you, right? Because like you guys are the opposite of me in that way. Whereas for me, it was always like, I'm going to develop technique. I'm going to talk about function. I'm going to develop that till the cows come home, right? And to the point where I wouldn't go beyond that as well. So I had to really, well, it's good because I've spent a long time in that space. So that means that, you know, I've got something to say about it, and something that I can help people with for sure. But the flip side of that is like, I'm just on that deft side of the scale. I'm not thinking about anything else. So being introduced, like, I remember Sylvia once in a training session where like the way he's doing it is like, you know, he's pushing us. And then at one point I was in my head, it was just basically, I want to make sure I think it was the pushing hands. So just coming up. So extending through the back. So I was like, I want to make sure I'm doing this so I'm not screwed on my back. So I was just doing a bit slower. I was probably thinking about the technique more than I needed to be. So I was slow when he wanted us to be explosive. And then he just stopped. He says, Gurinder, just go hard. I need you to stop thinking about this so much. I just need to be explosive. I was like, oh, I fucking needed to hear that. Then I just went full ham. And hey, actually, I'm still fine. You know, I came out of the session, I'm still fine. And if anything, I know how to kind of look after myself as well. So it's not going to fuck me up. And so that was good. It was almost like I needed the permission to actually go hard, basically. Mm-hmm. That's why it's good for me to know guys like you, so that I could actually rebalance myself, you know, redress that. And that's it's literally last few months, man. It's just been good for that. I've been getting into a routine of just pushing myself a little bit more, and then, you know, give it a year, give it 2 years. Again, that baseline is going to be different.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. That's brilliant, man. That's so cool, because it's just, it's complete opposite. Like when I come back to Leicester now after leaving London, I started training with TJ over here, and TJ's way is he's got, I think, every gear, in the sense that he can go very, very slow and get the technique down, and he can also go ham and really put it on you. And he's as a training partner, I couldn't hope for a better training partner, because like I've gone from having all of you guys to having one guy, and still benefiting massively. And and that's a credit to him, because he's developed that over years of training himself, training with his brothers, training in different settings. And when he sees me, when we first came back, we had a grapple, and we just went hard. Like, I think for 45 minutes we just grappled, and like there was no round, there was no nothing. It was just like it was an open mat, but there was just me and him there. That's it. And there was other people in the gym, and it was just me and him, and we ended up like just trashing each other, just like both of us were just fucked at the end of it. And after that, it was like, okay, we need to address some things, like I'm trying a technique, you're trying a technique, but but neither of us really has the and he this is him saying it to me, neither of us really has the awareness to pull these off slickly and with ease, you know what I mean? So luckily we kind of addressed the training to be like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to have that hard sparring day like once a week, and after that we're going to just address the technique and make sure the positions are happening properly and we're moving well. But then alongside that, we're going to push ourselves in cardio with other ways. So other ways that don't break our body down as much, we're still building that CV base. So like we've just come together in that sense of using ways of improving our CV, but improving our technique and improving and that's all feeding to when I can come back to Ray Stevens once a week and be like, okay, let me go and test myself now and actually see how I'm doing. And sometimes you hit and sometimes you miss, but all the way through, you're seeing that I'm better than I was. And back to the conversation that we were having before, is I've never met anybody in my life who's as grateful in the moment as TJ. And it's madness, because it's just I don't know, it's just 100% his way, where he's always, oh, thanks for that, man. You know, that time you taught me this and that time you taught me that. I've really used that and I've really kind of gone far with it. And just right there in the moment. And it's mad, because if you sit and think about it, he is just being grateful. Like, he is just being grateful. And that's part of who he is. That's part of the life he's lived. But dude, it's like, it's everything. Like we how many people, I can't list off many people in my life who I think I'd put in that same category. And I think he stands head and shoulders above everybody else in that category, in just because I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time with him. And you know what? It is just like intrinsically a part of him to just be aware and be thankful. Be aware and be thankful. And that's like, he's super smart. He's super, like I said, in the moment when it comes to gratitude. And I think that feeds into how he learns and how appreciative he is in the moment for when somebody teaches him something, because he knows that thing is going to take him so far. Like, you give him like a crumb and he's going to go with that for a week. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of guy he is. And yeah, man, it's again, like, having mentors and having lessons and having people around you that move you forward. He's definitely somebody that's affected me in that sense, for sure.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah. Super cool guy, man.
You want to be around. I think, and the thing is, like, even him appreciating it is, you just don't realize how much of an effect that has on the other person as well. Because one thing I'd be more conscious of is exactly that. Is if I've benefited from something, or if just something just makes me feel good, I want to show some level of appreciation.
Yeah.
It's because it's too easy to just keep going through things, and or just going through life, and then the moment you show a little bit of appreciation, like so it can make a difference to someone, you know.
Too right.
Because you just forget that how important you can be.
Yeah.
And then I even noticed that with clients as well, because I remember thinking to myself once, I was like, it was almost as if my client was seeking my validation, which was like, oh, that went really well, didn't it? And I thought I was, during the session or afterwards, was like, yeah, you did really well, that kind of thing. But maybe it didn't come across as if like I recognized it properly. So then I started thinking about it. So I was like, it sounds like he's just asking for, like, seeking my validation, as if like, did I do this well? Like, oh, I think I did that really well. That was a tough session today and I came through it. And I would always say like, oh no, you did. Yeah, you did great. Well done. But then I started paying attention to, am I saying it enough? You know, am I really showing because especially in your capacity as a coach, it's like you got to celebrate the wins 100%, and then you also got to show them where things ain't going so well, and then push them forward. And in this case, it was like, oh, maybe I'm not celebrating the wins as much as I should be. So I made a concerted effort to be like, that was fucking fantastic. You smashed that movement. You should remember where you were 2 weeks ago with this, 3 weeks ago with this. You're doing much better now. And then afterwards, like, especially if I thought back on the session and thought, that was pretty tough. You know, I could see they were huffing and puffing, just messaging with you. You really smashed it today. So just, so it got me thinking about that as well, because there is, especially when clients come to us because they don't know what they're doing. So they want to be reassured that they are able to, they are learning the right way, that they are achieving something. And so, and that they are leveling up. So we have to reinforce that for them as well, so that the baseline is rising. So we have to reinforce that. So yeah, it got me thinking about that, and being a bit more appreciative, and always being like, oh, that was, thank you for that. That was really useful for me. Or
for sure.
That we had, I'm glad you said these things because they were powerful in a certain way. And
yeah. You know who does that really, really well? Your bro.
Yeah.
Sam does that so well, because there's been times when I've like, or especially when I started off at Wave, and I didn't have a clue, right? I didn't have a clue. Like, I still had that. I didn't even know I still had that one gear. But when it comes time to fight, okay, cool. Then let's go at it. No, we're not doing that. We're like learning technique here, right? And I remember training with him and feeling super comfortable to be like, oh shit, like I messed that up. But he'd be like, no, don't worry about it, man. You're getting it. You're getting it. Like this you're definitely moving forward. And that reassurance in the moment is everything at that time. And that's like, we can kind of put ourselves back in that back in that client's shoes and be like, give them the reassurance and just kind of applaud it, everything. Like, it obviously goes back to the first podcast we did. But Sam constantly does that, whether it be in just always, like whether we're training, whether we're sparring, whether we're on the sides and we're kind of just chatting. It's it's a really, really great trait of his. And it's when he was talking, I was like, yeah, he's coming right to mind, because again, it's an innate part of him. And again, the way it makes us feel when we're training with someone like that, we're just super happy, man, super happy, super moving forward. Keeps us kind of away from the negative and way more driven towards the positive, and just like reframes that, like, actually, this is what happened, rather than you thinking that you did shit. You actually did really good. So good job. Keep going forward. Oh, cool. Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, man. Just Shout out, Big Sam. Yeah.
I taught him everything. He's a legend like that, and it's and interestingly, is like, for me, because so in terms of about who you identify with earlier on, is I didn't realize how much of a harsh criticizer I was of myself, like until like quite more recently. So it would be, if somebody said that to me, is like, no, don't worry about it, I'd be like, fuck you, don't try and appease me, So I would just beat myself up even more about it. And then, so it's been a process to be like, no, you have to just let that go, because if you don't, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer for nothing. It's not like it's for something. You just beat yourself up for the sake of beating yourself up, rather than taking it as a learning experience and something that you're going to be better at later. All I was doing was just hurting myself with it instead. So it could even be a little thing. And I know, like, again, this is why jiu-jitsu has been such an important part of my life, because it would make me realize, because you suck, and it's shown to you quickly, because like we said last time, the biggest thing that you're going to do most often is tap.
Yeah. So
if I'm going to get upset about tapping all the time, then what the fuck am I even doing practicing this sport, right? So I would, so if I got tapped, and especially if I got tapped several times by the same kind of move, I'll be like, why aren't I learning how to deal with this? What the fuck am I doing? And I'll just keep beating myself up about it. But I also noticed when, for whatever reason, and this is like, I've never, because it's something that I'm developing, especially like earlier, like a couple of years ago, I wouldn't understand why where I feel like I'm in a bit more of a state of flow when I'm training. I wouldn't understand why some days would feel good and other days would feel crap. And again, it was purely is purely what was going on in my mind. The days where I probably made the same mistakes, or rather there would be, so instead of it being a day where I was beating myself up about the mistakes, it was a day where I was, you know what, I had a great session. I might have fucked that up, but I also did something else that was different. And I don't know why I didn't recognize, or at that stage, I couldn't recognize those things that would switch my state. It would just be random. It would just feel completely random why I would show up and then feel like I had a shit session. Whereas on another day, I could have the exact same session, but I would feel infinitely better about it. So I would never recognize why that was. And then paying attention a lot more over the last, say, year and a half around mindset, and also with the neuroscience of it all as well, and I'm just trying to understand a little bit more about that, is really made me understand why on some days I would rock up and have a session where I feel great even if I made a million mistakes, whereas on other days previously I would rock up and feel like a piece of shit even though I had the same kind of session. So I've had to switch my mindset from, if Sam had told me, yeah, don't worry about it, I would still be like, nah, it was a shit, to actually, you're right, don't worry about it because there's something I can do about it and I will be better off for it, and I'll come back better from it next time. So it's yeah. So you talking about that actually just reminded me, or like kind of triggered that in me. It was like, yeah, it's interesting to feel that difference. Actually, I can feel it right now just talking about it, where before it would be like I'm just beating myself up. Now it's like I understand I was just beating myself up for the hell of it, but there's a lot more to be gained. And those sessions where I feel a lot more positive about it is because I approached it with a different mindset, rather than just kind of passively taking it on the chin. That's another thing that I realized, where if I feel like I'm being active, so you know how you said earlier, is like you can't just hold the jab here, you have to actually go for it. In grappling and jits, and like especially with Sylvia's wrestling classes as well, because that was like doing no-gi was very alien to me, because for about 2 and a bit years all I did was just gi training. Just by virtue of there was only one class a week at the club that I used to train at, and that was no gi, and I just wouldn't make it. And so I didn't really understand it, didn't really know much about it, and didn't know about how to do that. And then so doing those classes was like being a beginner again. And so what would happen is just wouldn't go for a takedown, go for a trip, and because it's like, oh, it doesn't feel quite right to do it. It doesn't feel quite right to do it. And then I would feel shit at the end of those sessions because I kept being passive. I was like, no, I didn't set it up perfectly. Whereas on the days where I was like, oh, that's not perfect, but I'm going to go for it, and I went for it, and even if I fucked it up, is because I went for it, I felt so much better. Those sessions at the end of it, I would be like, I feel great because I tried something, didn't work out, but I'm so much better off for it. Because later on down the line, I started realizing that for whatever reason, my body favors doing like an inside trip, basically an inside trip takedown. And one day, it just, because I fucked it up several times, one day it just clicked with me. And there were about 3 or 4 people consecutively who were, I think, mostly higher level grapplers than me, but I managed to get them with it. So I was like, oh, okay. Because I went for it, because I tried without worrying about failing, now it's paying off. So that's the and the feedback isn't always obvious as well, like straight off the bat, right? Because you keep fucking up and you just be like, I'm not getting anywhere with it. But this is where we like, again, talking about it from that perspective that Huberman has really highlighted to me, is the celebratory part of it. Is like just celebrating just the fact that I did it, even if I messed it up, means that it's going to make it more likely that I'll keep trying, instead of just being like, oh, I failed and I'm going to sack it off. So that's big.
That's big, man. That's really big. Yeah, man. That's definitely a good talking point for next time, for sure. I mean, you've really opened my eyes in the sense of a couple of things you just said there. Trying for the sake of trying, like there's not beating yourself up for what, like for what's going to come of that, like genuinely what's going to come. Obviously, we know that, but when you hear it said, like you just said it now, definitely hit home, for sure, man, for sure, because really you are always better off for trying, because then, like, it goes back to what I was saying last time with the rocket analogy. Like, you come off course and then you have something that moves you back onto course, and you go off course the other way and it moves you back onto course, because you've come off course, right? But the thing is that you've tried in the first place, and you have to have that feedback, right? Yeah, man. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah,
totally.
You don't know where you're going. And
yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's not the right way of putting it. I don't think it's like you don't know where you're going. Actually, yeah, no, it is. That's definitely a part of it as well, because you're just hazy. It's just not. Yeah, it's just.
There's no feedback, because there's not actual any like reality, right? And that I think that's the way of putting it, is like you just get the feedback. As soon as you do something, you're immediately going to get a reaction, and that's like JITS 101, right? Like, get the reaction, and then you work off the reaction, right? And it's like, okay, if I'm being a spazzy white belt and I'm just like sticking my arms out of being on my back, then the reaction to that is going to get arm guard, right? But if I keep my frames in, then okay, well, you got to think about this now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, bro, yeah. It's I love it. I can't wait for JITS, man. I can't wait to get back. I'm so looking forward to it.
If you tell Sam, you'll be like, nah, man, that's never going to happen again. The old world is dead. we're never going to be trading grappling ever again. He's like, what? Having that face-to-face contact with people? You crazy?
So sad, man. So sad. We need to figure this shit out. Just somehow, like, virtual JITS is going to happen, like with the VR kind of things, and you just kind of go in there. Okay, let's go.
Demolition Man, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're doing like VR, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" The VR sex, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" And instead, we're going to be doing VR JITS.
It's the episode of Black Mirror, isn't it? That crazy ass fucking. He's like, "What is this, man?" No, dude, no. Yeah, bro. Come, should we call it there, bro?
Yeah, I think so, man. That sounds like a good natural point to end.
Nice, man. Nice. I like it. The definitely touched on some really good points again, man. These podcasts, like, zero planning. I'm really happy with how it goes. You just flow, eh?
Flow, exactly, yeah. Because I know you're going to say something which is going to trigger something in me, because you've always got something interesting to say, and it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then that's what I like as well, just like the kind of flow of it. We can come in with ideas for sure. Because I remember last time you said you were talking, because you got a notepad as well.
Oh yeah.
Because you were thinking of things you were thinking. You got it right there. One of the things you were thinking about was the role of the man in the household and stuff like that. Yeah. Into, because I mean, there's because I've read a little bit about that kind of thing as well. Like, it's just almost like the Fight Club generation type thing, right? Where they were talking about in the movie, they're like, a generation of men raised by women, and then like, anyway, we could talk about that next time. With there's some stats around kids being raised in households which are single parent or divorced parents, stuff like that, and just how that affects their affects the course of their life.
Interesting, man. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. We'll chat about that more off air, and then we'll come back with some ammo for next time, man. Definitely.
That's good.
For sure, bro. For sure. Yeah, man. Dude.
Yeah, man.
Pleasure. Come.
Yeah.
I'll message you. Obviously, we'll chat more, and then we'll set a time for next time.
Sounds good, man. All right.
Yeah. Go on, bro. Train hard, all right? I'll see you soon.
Take it easy, bro. You have a good one.
Yeah, bro. See ya.